everyone. This is your brother, Mr. Islam Answers Back. And we're here again with another live show. All right, here with another live show for you. So, okay, good. We got some people already watching, tuning in. That's great. That's great. All right, so got some good topics to talk about this week. All right, the big thing that's going on. Wa alaikum salam. All right, so the big thing in the news that's going on right now is the situation with Trump. Wa alaikum salam. With the with declaring the what's the name, making the moving the American embassy into Jerusalem. And of course, this is causing a big uproar now. Now I see that some protests have broken out, some riots perhaps have broken out over there. Wa alaikum salam, welcome everyone for tuning in. Thank you for taking the time to tune in also. So we see that over there in Palestine, there's some anger over what Trump did, And this is perfect because remember last week I was talking to you guys about that book. Remember I was telling you how Zionism is an extension of the European racist colonialist ideology. And I was mentioning to you how some of the founders of the Zionist movement actually expressed that thinking. Right? They express that type of thinking. So, you know what I mean? So, I mentioned I had a book that talked about this. So I have the book with me right now. Here it is right here. This is the book right here. All right. This is the book that I was talking about. It's called Zionism, The Myth and the Reality by Ismail Zaid. Okay. And let's see if we can find that quote that I was talking about, which ties into this discussion about, what Trump did and what Trump said and moving the embassy and the issue over, Jerusalem and things like that. All right. So let's see here. All right. So here on page, have you seen the debate between Robert Spencer and James White? Oh, no, they had a debate? Robert Spencer? Oh, I got to check that out. Yeah, no, I haven't seen that one. I definitely need to check that out. Yeah, Robert Spencer and James White. I would love to see that. Definitely got to check that out. All right, so what was I saying? That all right, so yeah, so to show how the founders of Zionism themselves said that they were an extension of the European colonialist movement, in the book on page 23, with the title is Israel, a Racist Settler Colonial Regime. They say here, it says Herzl's efforts in England included soliciting the backing of the major colonialist figures, foremost amongst whom was Cecil Rhodes. Cecil Rhodes, matter of fact, look how that ties into the situation in Zimbabwe. Right, Cecil Rhodes. Cecil Rhodes was the man who had something to do with the colonialism of Zimbabwe. They called it, after his name, they called it Rhodesia. But that's also significant to talk about as well. So look at this is just working out great because it's tying into a lot of the current events that are taking place right now. So as you see, Theodore Herzl is soliciting, as they said, some of the major colonialist figures of the time period. Wa alaikum salam, Yusuf, Chebi, yeah, wa alaikum salam. El Qassas, welcome. Dude, Desi, Morpheus, Shazad Ali, welcome everybody, welcome. So yeah, so like I said, so that ties into the thing with what's going on with Zimbabwe now. As you know, Mugabe had to step down. And there was a lot of, criticisms of, Mugabe for that, that people were criticizing him and things like that. Today's topic is going to be talking about, I want to talk about, what happened with in Jerusalem. So we're going to be talking about that. as though they are doing, what's it? I think Muslims shouldn't act as they are doing Palestine. It plays in the hands of it. That's true. That's true. Yeah. I agree. You know, I mean, I understand the anger and the frustration, but then on the other hand, right, you're right. That kind of play, they can say, yeah, see how these people are. You know, they'll use that and they'll be like, so I kind of see what you're saying. You know, but at the same time, I do understand the anger and the frustration. All right, so let me get back to what I was saying before I lose my thought. So I was talking about how, and this ties into the topic of how all this is going on, even today, even what happened with Trump and all of that, and Jerusalem and all of that. This ties into, as I said, how the Zionist movement is nothing more than an extension. It's one of the branches of the overall white supremacist colonialist movement. You see? So I was talking to you about how Theodore Herzl had stated before that he actually said that in some uncertain terms, that he wanted the help of the colonialist powers because that's what the Zionist movement was. It was just nothing more than an extension of the colonialist people, you know, the colonialist movers and shakers. And so here, as I said, I'm reading from the book Zionism, the Myth and the Reality, which is the book that I told you guys about last week that I was going to get the efforts in England included soliciting the backing of the major colonialist figures, foremost amongst whom was Cecil Rhodes. Now, as I said, Cecil Rhodes, you should know him. He's the one who was influenced or had the position of colonizing Zimbabwe. And that's interesting because, as you know, what happened with Zimbabwe recently, where Mugabe had to step down, and now they got a new president who is already pretty much seems like he's already, you know, bowing down to the colonialist, you know, former masters. You know, he's talking about giving compensation to the farmers who Mugabe took the land from, and I'm like, why? They don't deserve any compensation, right? Why do they deserve compensation? That land was stolen. Right. So when Mugabe took it back, he did the right thing. They don't deserve any compensation. Right. They don't deserve to be compensated at all. How are you going to compensate the descendant of a thief who inherited stolen land? Right. Because that's what those farmers are. That land that they have is stolen land. So they don't deserve any compensation. So I don't know why this president is doing that. But, you know, that's how you know that who he's probably working for. And to my surprise, and to the surprise of many African Americans, we were shocked to see that a lot of Zimbabwe Africans were like happy about that. Now, again, I understand the frustrations because obviously Mugabe was having a hard time trying to get the country in gear after being freed from the colonialists, and the racists. But of course, that was by design that they made it hard for him, right? Because they were putting sanctions on Zimbabwe. They were doing all these things to make it difficult for Zimbabwe to really get true independence from their former colonial masters. And so they didn't like the idea that he was confiscating the farmland from the thieves, from the descendant of the land thieves and the land subjugators, which to me was what he was justified to do so. You know, like, for example, imagine here in America if the Native Americans got back to power, like they somehow were able to build themselves up, wa alaikum salam, and come back into power in the United States. And then they said, you know what, we taking all this land back. Would they be wrong, right? Would they be wrong if they said, you know, we're taking Washington, D.C. back. We're taking New York. You know, this is all there. We're taking it back from all these corporations or whatever. Would they be wrong if they did that? No, they wouldn't, right? They wouldn't be wrong if they came back to power and they decided, yo, you know, this is our land. We're taking it back. We're taking it back from you corporations, from this, from that. And no, you're not getting compensated because it was stolen in the first place. Would they be wrong? They wouldn't, right? They wouldn't be wrong if they did that. So Mugabe, to me, was justified. You know what I'm saying? Mugabe was justified in what he did, right? But of course, the former colonial masters, the British, and they didn't like that. They didn't like that he was doing all that stuff, even though they didn't want to acknowledge that he was justified in doing so. But they didn't like that he was, that he was taking the land back from these people. So they made it hard for him. They put sanctions on Zimbabwe, whatever they could do to make it difficult for him to achieve his goal of true and free independence. They were doing that. And that's what made it hard for them to get by. So a lot of the Africans from Zimbabwe, a lot of Zimbabweans, they were upset about that. They were upset about the difficulties that they had to face because of that. And they blamed it on Mugabe, right? But now they're all happy, you know, that the new president is there and he's giving land. He's talking about compensating the farmers and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I see that a lot of white Zimbabweans are all happy. Of course, they're all happy because, you know, they know that this is the one who's going to make things easier for them. Whereas Mugabe was like, you know, no, you guys sat by silently when you guys were in power and we were under the racist regime, right? And under the racist governance. You know, these people, they didn't do nothing. They weren't trying to help out the black Zimbabwe people who are the original owners of that land. But now they want to be all happy and you know, so it's kind of sad to see this. So a lot of African Americans, I was watching some of the social media, and a lot of African Americans were like, you know, what are y'all doing? Why are you guys all happy about that? You know what I'm saying? They couldn't understand like why they're so happy about that and about, you know, compensating the farmers and all that, when these, again, they don't deserve any compensation. So let me continue on. So like I said, so that was the thing about Cecil Rhodes, right? That was the thing about Cecil Rhodes. And that's who one of the people, Theodore Herzl, which one of the fathers of the Zionist movement, who he was seeking his aid in getting Israel or getting Palestine, right? So it says, in a letter explaining his interests, Herzl wrote that although his project did not involve Africa, but a piece of Asia Minor, had this been on your path, talking to Cecil Rhodes, he said, you would have done it yourself by now. Why then did Herzl turn to him? The Zionist leader rhetorically asked. Because it is something colonial was the answer. What Herzl sought was Rhodes' certificate for colonial viability and desirability. So here Theodore Herzl is telling you very clearly that their desire, these white Jews' desire to take Palestine, was because it was colonial, just like Theodore Herzl and Cecil Rhodes and the other, you know, white racist colonialists had in mind. You see what I'm saying? So he goes on to say, Herzl's successor, Weizmann, obtained from the British imperialists the necessary patronage and protection for the imported Zionist colonies in Palestine in the form of, and I'm sure you guys have heard of this, the Balfour Declaration on November 2nd, 1917, right? In his continued search for advice and support from the expert colonialists on the African scene, Weizmann found identity of views with General Ian Smuts. Smuts addressed a meeting arranged by the South African Jewish Board of Deputies and the Zionist Federation in Johannesburg on November 3rd, that's Johannesburg, South Africa, 1919, and said, I need not remind you that the white people of South Africa has been brought up almost entirely on Jewish tradition. The Old Testament has been the very matrix of Dutch culture here in South Africa. That is the basis of our white culture. This is him talking. This is Weizmann talking. All right, one of the successors of the leadership of the Zionist movement. So these are his words. This is what he's saying. He's saying that they are in line with the other white supremacists and white racists. Okay, right? That's basically what he's saying. He's saying that is the basis of our white culture. So all you people who when we bring this up, try to say, oh, well, you know, they're Jews and try to act like the Jews are a race different. No, they're not. Jew is their religion. Please remember that. Jew is their religion. That's not their race. Okay, there's no race of people called Jew. Jew is their religious background. That's not their race. By race, these Ashkenazis, they are Caucasian white persons. I've said this many times, so let us not forget that. And your founding father, he just made my point. All right? From the grave, he made my point. He's talking to the other white racist South Africans back at that time and telling them, look, we are just like you. Right? It's our, he says, white culture. He's not separating himself because his religion is Judaism. He's saying we are with you. It's our white culture is what he says, right? So he says that is the basis of our white culture. And it is the basis of your Jewish culture. And therefore we are standing together. You hear what he's saying? Remember, this is the context. He's talking to the white racist apartheid South Africans back in the year 1919. And he's saying that they have a common goal. Right? So that's going to bring me to another book that I have to show you why Israel and South Africa were allies, right? Israel and apartheid, white racist devil apartheid, they were allies. right? They were allies together. Why? Because, right, as you can see from their founding, they were told they have the same common goal. Dealing with two different people, but they were dealing with people of color. In their eyes, the Palestinians were the people of color that they had to deal with. And in South Africa, the black Africans, South Africans, were the people that the other people that the Dutch had to deal with. But they said there's a common goal, which is what? Obviously, i.e. to maintain a white dominance over these people of color. They will maintain it over the Palestinians, people of color, the brown people, and they will maintain it over the black people in South Africa. But they have a common goal, is what he said, okay? So he said, therefore, we are standing together on a common platform. It goes on, it says, the identity of views of the two was evidenced in the fact that Weizmann, the new Moses, as they called him, as Smuts called him, never questioned the racist basis of the South African state and perceived no moral difficulty in accepting the subordinate position of the African majority in South Africa, as did Smuts assume without question the right of the Jewish settlers to occupy Palestine without regard to the rights of the indigenous Palestinian people. So this ties into what happened with Trump this week. That same thing, that same arrogant white racist mentality had no problem saying, you know what, we're gonna move the embassy here to Jerusalem out of Israel without any regard for the other people, the Palestinian people. Okay, so it goes on to say that where was I? That, yeah, as Smuts assumed without question the right of the Jewish settlers to occupy Palestine without regard to the rights of the indigenous Palestinian people. In both cases, Smuts and Weizmann epitomized the capacity of Western civilization to rationalize domination and exploitation of what they considered the inferior, and this is a quote, the inferior uncivilized races in Africa and Asia. In a remarkable meeting of imperialistic design and liberal philosophy, the perpetuation of white domination over South Africa and the sanctioning of eventual Jewish control over Palestine was effected in large part by the same handful of politicians, including some of the outstanding representatives of the British ruling class. Thus, the South African Act of Union of 1910 and the Balfour Declaration of 1917 each owed their birth in large part to Lord Milner, Lord Selborne, Lord Balfour, Joseph Chamberlain, and General Smuts. Okay, so that kind of, leads us to where we are with the issue with Palestine today. And as I said, that brings me to this other book that I have, right, which is called, you see this? It's called Israel in South Africa, Legal Systems of Settler Dominance by Donald Will and Sheila Ryan. Okay, if you can get this book, very good book. It talks about the relationship, and this is one of the brothers that I'm associated with, the brother named by the name of Hakeem Muhammad. He actually has been doing some lectures about this at his college. All right, you can find him on Twitter. I follow him on Twitter also. So this talks about how the relationship between Israel and South Africa, apartheid South Africa. Now, this is talking about not modern South Africa. This is talking about the relationship between Israel and apartheid, racist South Africa from back in the days. How they had a relationship with each other, as you saw way back, because they have the same mentality. They have the same ideology, which is that they are the superior people and they have the right to subjugate and take the land of these other people. The South African whites, racists, used the same ideology, even though they weren't Jewish, but they still had that same kind of mentality that they were God's chosen people as white Christians, and they had the right to take the land of the indigenous black people who already lived there. See what I'm saying? So this book talks about the relationship between them and how many of their laws, many of the apartheid laws and many of the Zionist laws in Israel are similar. They're very similar. Okay, they're very similar. This is a good book that you can get your hands on, and it talks about how many of the laws that they're similar, how Israel and South Africa, apartheid South Africa, were allies, and they would help each other, supply each other with weapons and things like this. Okay, so that's on that. Now let's see what we got. What's going on here? Now somebody asked me. Oh yes, brother Dudes Desi said, "What do you think the solution to this ongoing Israel-Palestinian conflict to be? What do you think the solution? To me, the solution, the solution is justice. You know what I'm saying? The solution is justice. Give the That's the only solution I see is justice, which is what? Give the Palestinian people their land back. That's the only honest, real solution. You know what I'm saying? Give those people their land back, right? Give those people their land back, or maybe even the plan that what was the king? Was it King Faisal? Where he was like, if Israel said if they would go back to the borders that they had, I think in before 1969 or something like that, then all the Arab nations would, make an agreement with them, and they could have complete total peace. Maybe even that would be a solution. Like, go back to the borders, stop the settlements, give up those settlements, go back to the borders that you had before 1969 or whatever year it was, I think that he offered, and give the Palestinians back that land, and then all the Arab nations would make an agreement of complete peace with them. Maybe that's a solution. I say the real solution is the Palestinians have to have their land back. They have to have their land back. They have to have and give them their independence. No checkpoints. None of that checkpoint BS. None of that discrimination bull BS. None of that. It has to be complete independence for them. Let them have their own governance. No blocking off of water and checkpoints and all that stuff like that. None of that stuff. To me, that's the solution, right? To me, that's the real honest solution. Okay. Let's see. What else do we have here? What do you think about the hadith that speaks about the Jew behind the rock? Yeah, well, I think I spoke about this a few weeks ago, but sometimes a lot of people bring that hadith up, and in the book Signs of the Day of Judgment by Ibn Kathir, there's that hadith is actually longer than what most people quote. The longer version of the hadith says that, because a lot of people, especially a lot of haters, a lot of anti-Islamists, they quote that hadith as if it's saying that it's going to be all Jews. And that's not what that hadith said. If you read that hadith in full, it actually mentions that at the time of the Dajjal, there would be 1,000 Jews in the army. It says very clear that there would be 1,000 Jews in the army of the Dajjal. Okay, and so when that battle takes place between the Dajjal and his army and Jesus and his army, right, that's what would happen. That as Jesus and the army and his army defeat the Dajjal and his army, and they start retreating and scattering, that the Jews that were part of his army, not all Jews, the Jews that were part of the army of the Antichrist, would be hiding behind a rock or a tree or whatever, and then the rocks or whatever would reveal their position or something of that case. But it's not speaking, it doesn't say all Jews or anything like that. But that's supposed to be the full version of it. That it only was referencing the Jews that were part of the Dajjal's army, which is said to be 1,000 Jews. Okay, so I want Jews who hear this to keep that in mind, that it only mentioned 1,000. So, and there's at least, I don't know, 17, 18 million Jews worldwide. So it only mentioned that only 1,000. And Muslims should keep that in mind too, that it said only 1,000 Jews were in his army. So that means you can't go around looking at every Jew as an enemy or whatever, because it said only 1,000 Jews who were part of the Dajjal's army. All right. So I guess he had 1,000 Jews in his army, and then the other people were whoever, a bunch of, whoever the other people were. But that's what it actually says. So that's what I feel about that. What else? What's the next thing? What do you think about studies that say that most Ashkenazi Jews have a different ancestry from white Jews, white non-Jews? Well, actually, I don't know, because I've seen stuff that say contrary to that. Like, I have books that talk about how really the reality is that they really don't have a different ancestry at all. That when you check their DNA is not much different from the other white people that they're surrounded by. You see what I'm saying? So I think sometimes they make, they try to, because I've seen there's different stories. Some stories say that, they have their DNA is different, but I think these are just attempts to try to make them seem like they're the chosen special people. But all the reports that I've seen, show that they really, when you check their DNA, if they're from Poland, then their DNA is no different from the other white Polish people that they're around who are not Jews. If they're in England or whatever the case, you check their DNA is no different. You can't tell the difference between them and anybody else who they're amongst. Their DNA is the same as the other white people that they're around who are not Jews. Matter of fact, I even had an argument with somebody some time ago. I think it was on Pal Talk. Yeah, it was on Pal Talk, and the guy was trying to argue with me about the matter of fact. I think I have that link too. And so I showed him a link from a peer-reviewed genetics journal. So this wasn't like some fly-by-night regular. Or no, this was a peer-reviewed genetics journal, and they talked about that very issue. And they said there is no evidence that these white Jews are different. It said there's no evidence. Matter of fact, let me see if I have that in my bookmarks. It said their DNA is no different. It's no different from other other whites that they live amongst. Let's see if I saved it. I think I did. Let's see. Where is it? Do I still have it? Let's see. I don't think did I have it? I don't know. Maybe I didn't save it. Wait. Is that it? No. No, that's not it. I may have to come back and find it again. Or maybe it's on my desktop computer rather than my laptop. But yeah, like I said, it was a peer-reviewed journalist genetics journal of genetic scientists, and they had an article about that where they tried to see if there was a difference, and they said no, there's no difference. There's no difference. That the supposed Jewish gene, it doesn't exist. No evidence exists that they are different from the other people that they're around. They're not a separate race of people. All right. Next, I'll have to bring that one next time and see if I can find a link. So that's what I think about that. There's no difference. And don't let people trick you with thinking that they are a difference either. All right, let's see. Desi, do the Palestinians can make peace with Israel to make life easy for them? That said, the Israelis will also come up the excuse to make it more difficult for them. The best option is not to resort to violence, but to keep campaigning and pressuring the international community. This way, it will pressure the Israeli government to come to the negotiating table and come up with a solution. Israel hates it when it's made out to be the bad guy. I mean, I agree with you to a certain extent, Shazad, that yeah, they do hate that when they're made to be the bad guys. But I mean, I think the Palestinian people have been petitioning, the world community for a long time, and unfortunately, the majority of the world community, although it's made of people of color, it's still dominated by the Western colonial power, former colonial powers. See, that's the thing about it, is that the majority of the world is made up of people of color, right? The majority of the African nations, the South American nations, the Asian nations, right? They outnumber the European Western nations. They outnumber America. They outnumber, the European countries, because there's more people of color in the world. The problem, though, is that the League of Nations, which turned into the United Nations, these were created by the Western supremacists themselves. You see? So they have control of this. So although the other nations that are people of color may not agree, they seem like they don't have the power, right? They seem like they don't have the power to really do much, because the Western colonialist powers still dominate. Even though they're minority, they seem somehow, when I look at it, is like they seem to still dominate. They still seem to dominate when it comes to the policies and things like that. You see? So that's why it doesn't seem to get anywhere. They've been petitioning the world community, but because of the dominance of these Western powers, who are actually the minority in this world, yet they hold the power, nothing gets done for the Palestinians, Excuse me. You know what I'm saying? Like nothing gets done for that reason. So, I don't know what type of political solution they could find, because it just seems like it's falling on deaf ears. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe if, I think one way they could perhaps get a political solution to this is if the other Muslim nations back them. I think that could be a way. But see, that's the other problem. That's the other reason why white supremacy, global white supremacy, maintains its power. You know that? Do you know the reason why? Because they can find people who are willing to sell out. That happens whether it's on a global scale or on a small scale, right? Here in America, when there were slave revolts, Nat Turner and all that stuff like that, the reason why they failed was because there was always some Uncle Tom house Negro sellout who was willing to aid the oppressor. You see that, and because that's why they fail many times, because there's too many, and it's because there's too many. If there was like one or two and you could take care of them and get them out the way, but a lot of times there's a whole mass of these sellouts willing to sell their own people out for the oppressor, and then the whole movement gets destroyed. And so that's the problem I see with Palestine, is that the other Muslim nations, they're listening to what America tells them to do, what the British tell them to do, and therefore the Palestinians are kind of left isolated with no real help, right? Surrounded by other Muslim nations, but they have nobody to help them, because the Saudis you're in alliance with America, so you're not going to do nothing, right? Because you and America are good buddies. So you don't want to do nothing to her. That's why that's why Allah said in Quran, don't take them as your allies and protectors, right? For all the haters out there, the verse doesn't say don't take them as your friend. That's not the proper translation. It really says don't take them as your guardian protector. The word is wali, awliya, which is from the root word wali, which means somebody who's your guardian, not your friend. Right? Not your friend. A lot of haters bring, the Quran says you can't take them as your friend. No, it doesn't say you can't take them as your friend. I can be friends and friendly with you. What it says is don't take them as your protectors. You see? And this is why. Because when you rely on them to be your protector, right? This is what happens. When you rely on them to be your protector, this is what happens. Now you can't really say what you want to say. You can't really do what you want to do because this guy is taking care of you. Like, what's the saying? Don't bite the hand that feeds you, right? You heard of that saying, right? So that's why Allah, he was trying to keep us in an independent position. So he said, look, if you're going to make peace, make sure it's an equal peace agreement. Don't put yourself at a disadvantage. Right? Don't take them as your protectors and your guardians. Why? Because Allah in his wisdom, he knows that when you have somebody who's your protector and your guardian and you rely on them, then you can't really express yourself freely. You got to walk on eggshells, as they say, right? Because why? Because you don't want to offend your protector, because you're relying on him to feed you, to protect you. So you don't want to say something that might make you lose your food or your protection, right? So you're gonna hold your tongue. Right? You're not going to say what you really want to say. You're not going to do what you really want to do because you don't want to offend your protector. See? And so that's the problem. The Palestinians really have no help because the Saudis, the Saudis are in line with America. That's their protector, basically. Right? That's their guardian and protector. And in fact, there's information about that. It goes way back to when King was the first king, King Fahd or whatever, or King Faisal, whichever one he was, the first Saudi king, how him and Franklin Delano Roosevelt had a secret meeting. This is public record now. It's declassified information. There's even video footage of it, that they actually had a meeting. And this is when, when they were getting ready to start the alliance. And after World War I, I believe it was. And they were starting that alliance. And then how they were going to do the deal with the oil and stuff like that. And it was agreed upon since back then that America would be Saudi's protector and ally to make sure that the Saudis stay in power. And of course they give them that oil and whatever. And so, you know what I'm saying? And so that's the sad part about it. Then of course you got all the other Muslim countries that are kind of like, they're not doing anything. Even Iran is not doing anything. Egypt is not. Of course, Egypt has that treaty that they made with Israel so many years ago. And of course, that was from America, right? They made the treaty between the two, and then America gives Egypt a little bit of money. It gives Israel some money, and so now Egypt never says anything. Egypt kind of turns a blind eye, and doesn't do anything. So none of those Muslim countries are doing anything. And that's why the Palestinians really have no, they really can't make any headwaves. All these years, all the years of anger, all the years of protest. We had the PLO, we had Hezbollah, we had what was the other one? Hezbollah. What's that other? What was the other group? Man, I forgot the name of the other group. But all these different groups, yet nothing really has been achieved, right? Nothing has really been achieved from way back with Yasser Arafat and the PLO, Hezbollah, whatever other groups there were. Nothing has been achieved because they're left isolated. No Muslims are really helping them, and so really no political, not whether it's political or even militarily, nothing, no achievement is being done because the Muslim nations are in the pocket of their Western protectors, and the Palestinians are left to fend for themselves, and nothing gets done for them. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it really comes down to. That's the sad part about it. Like, what's the next thing? Let's see. That's it. All right. Christian nutcases think that the Jews must have Palestine, so it would haste. Yes, that's the other thing about it, and that's like a movement here in America. I don't know how that is in the UK, but in America, right, there's this like end times kind of philosophy amongst certain what we call right-wing Christians here in America, or Christian Zionists. And remember, I talked about them. I told you about this, that right, these people don't necessarily support Israel because they really care for them, because like I said, in their end time prophecy, Jesus comes back and he destroys most of the Jews, right? In their end time, in the Christian end time prophecy, when Jesus returns, he destroys most of the Jews. Most of them get destroyed. Only 144,000. So remember now, this right now, if Jesus was to come back according to their belief, there's about 17, 18 million Jews worldwide. According to the book of Revelation, only 144,000 of them survive and get entered into the kingdom of heaven. So that means all those other, I'm not going to do the math right now, but all those other people, all those other Jews are destroyed, and only 144,000 survive, right? So these Christians who support them, who like you just said, who believe that they have to support because that's going to hasten the return of Jesus, they're only doing that not because they care about the Jews or they love them or whatever, but like you said, they want the conflict to continue because they feel that if that conflict continues, that will speed up Jesus's return, supposedly. I don't know how they figure that out, but that's what they think. And that's why they support Israel, because they think, yes, we're going to stay on your side, keep doing what you're doing, keep the conflict going, and somehow Jesus is going to look wherever he's at, is going to look down and be like, you know what, it's time for me to step in and come back. But that's their craziness there. Okay, all right, let's continue on. Let's see. Right, so they think that's going to hasten it on. Israeli government. Okay. Is Zionism based on European Jewish supremacy, like Nazism is based upon European Christian supremacy? Based on European. It is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I know you may have missed the beginning of the show when I actually read from this book right here, Zionism, the Myth and Reality, which I was talking about from last week, where I told you about Theodor Herzl and Weizmann, the two successive founding fathers of the Zionist and leadership of the Zionist movement, expressed those words that yes, this is their Zionist movement is an extension of the white supremacist, European colonialist movement. So yes, it is. In fact, I can give you some more quotes on that. I can give you some more quotes about that it indeed is, and these are quotes from them themselves. Okay, so as I mentioned to you from Theodor Herzl and how he spoke about it, so let's talk about some of that, so I can show you some more about the racism of it, right? So let's see. The settler colonial movement, this is on page 21 of the book. It says, from its very inception, the Zionist movement as a settler colonial movement saw a natural symbiotic alliance with European imperialism. The rapid advances of aggressive and chauvinist nationalism in Europe stressed that the superior racial qualities were the basis for the exploitation and quote-unquote civilizational mission under the notion of the white man's burden. Throughout the negotiations involving the Zionist proposals for white penetration into Africa and Asia, Herzl, in the manner of 19th century imperialist thinkers, spoke of imperialism and colonialism as a noble activity, destined to bring civilization to the backward races. You notice how they say that today too, right? You notice how when you hear people talking about the Middle East or Islam or Arabs or whatever, you know how they talk about, you notice how they'll say stuff like that, right? Like backwards, Islam is backwards, or these people are backwards, or whatever the case. Those are coded racial words. Always remember that. When they use words like that, those are their coded racial words. So let's continue. So he says that he considered colonialism a noble activity destined to bring civilization to the backward races. Viewing the Jewish state with these Occidental white binoculars, he asserted that this state is designed to form a part of a wall of defense for Europe in Asia, an outpost of civilization against barbarism. So as you see, the Israelis saw their occupying of Palestine as sort of like a frontline defense for the rest of Europe, that they, themselves being white Jews, could act as a barrier to protect them if the other, the people further south, Africa or whatever, would seek to advance towards Europe. They could act as the first line of defense, as part of the extension of the white power structure for the rest of Europe. Okay, so it's no secret that we see the treatment of the Palestinians, that is racist. There's a racist element to it. There's no doubt about it. Okay, so let's go on. He goes on to say, in their search for a location for the Zionist enclave to be created, a variety of options were explored. Now, this is what many of you don't know. And this also knocks down the idea that this was more so a religious thing. Like they wanted Israel, or they wanted Palestine, so they could say that this was the fulfillment of their prophecy. Because no, at first they wanted any land that they could be given. Let me show you. Look, it says here in the book, it says, in their search for a location, Palestine was not their first choice. See, so this shows you that from the beginning, the claims that they want Israel because it's their homeland is a bunch of BS. It's a bunch of BS, right? They wanted the Europeans to give them any land that they could use. So look, listen to what it says. It says, in their search for a location for the Zionist enclave to be created, a variety of options were explored, including, look at this, listen to this. They wanted Uganda. Now imagine if they had taken Uganda today. I guarantee you, instead of a Palestinian-Israeli conflict, it would be a Ugandan-Israeli conflict. Because you can't just take people's land and think that you have the hell right to do what you think you want with it. Even if you claim God gave it to you. Even if you think God is giving you this land. If there's people there, there's going to be problems. So they thought, they chose Uganda. They said, what about Uganda? Tripolitania in Libya. So again, if they would have had Libya, today would be a Libya-Israeli conflict. They said Cyprus. They had Madagascar. They had the Congo, and then Palestine was one of their choices. So imagine if they would have taken one of those other locations. Imagine if they would have taken the Congo. Imagine if they would have took Madagascar. Imagine if they would have took Cyprus. Imagine if they would have took Tripolitania in Libya. Or imagine if they would have taken Uganda, right? And just the nerve of their white, racist, devilish selves to even suggest that, hey, give us some of Uganda. Hey, give us some of Libya. When they know that these people, but this is the white racist mentality, which includes the Zionists. Because they, as you've seen, they are an extension of the white racist mentality. They didn't consider these people human anyway, so they didn't give a damn who was there. They didn't give a damn that the Ugandans were there. They look, just give us some of that land. Those Ugandans don't matter. Give us some of Cyprus. They don't matter. Give us Madagascar. Those people don't matter, right? Those blacks don't matter, right? Or give us Palestine. They're brown people too. They don't matter. They don't matter. Who cares if we take their land? Who cares, right? That's their sick, devilish mentality. That's their sick, devilish mentality, that they would even think that, hey, just give us some of that. Give us this land where these people are native living. But hey, just give us some of that. We'll take that and we'll make our homeland out of that. Devilish, man, devilish. So continuing as with your question about the racism. So that's what they said. So they said, this is Theodore Herzl. He says, I have seen a land for you, Dr. Herzl, on my recent travels, and that is Uganda. So at first, Uganda was going to be their choice. They were kind of set on getting Uganda. Imagine that. They were kind of set on getting Uganda. So it goes on to say that I've seen a land for you, Dr. Herzl, on my recent travels, and that is Uganda. It is hot on the coast, but the climate of the interior is excellent for Europeans. Right? This was Joseph Chamberlain speaking when he was talking to Herzl. So Joseph Chamberlain said, hey, look, Theodore Herzl, father of the Zionist movement, I saw a place that you Jews could take, you white Jews could take. How about Uganda? Uganda's nice. It's hot on the coast and the interior is good. It's a good climate for white people like us. It's a good climate for us. You'll like Uganda. You white Jews, you'll like Uganda. But somewhere down the line, obviously they changed their mind and they chose Palestine instead. All right. So it says that he wrote to Joseph Chamberlain to Herzl. Though Herzl strongly favored Uganda as listen, you heard that? Though Herzl strongly favored Uganda as the location for the Jewish state, the committee appointed by the World Zionist Congress to explore the area found it unsustainable or unsuitable. So Theodore Herzl was actually liking the idea of taking Uganda. So again, proving that the idea that they think Palestine was their original homeland is a bunch of BS. They were ready to take any land that the white devil European racist was going to give them. All right. Any land they were going to give them, they were willing to take. And Theodore Herzl, he liked Uganda. He was kind of happy with, hey, okay, yeah, we'll take Uganda. But the rest of the committee, the World Jewish Congress, said, nah, we don't like Uganda. So they said, oh well, Uganda's not good. Uganda's not good. So it said Theodore Herzl strongly favored Uganda as the location for the Jewish state. The committee appointed by the World Zionist Congress to explore the area found it unsuitable. Herzl then approached King Victor Emmanuel III of Italy and brought up his project. And I quote, to channel the surplus Jewish immigration into Tripolitania under the liberal laws and institutions of Italy. So when Italy had occupied Libya, he was going to the Italian authorities and said, he was trying to find out which one of the colonial powers was going to give them some land. So he said, hey, Italy, how about you? Can you help us give us some of Libya? Give us a little bit of Libya for our land. All right. It said the king told him gently that the Zionist project would mean building in someone else's house. Now that's ironic. And see, that's the funny thing about a lot of these devilish racist colonialists, that it's funny how they have a certain morality when it comes to certain things, right? So here the king of Italy is telling Theodore Herzl that it wouldn't be right to do that because you'd be building in somebody's house. Meanwhile, the Italians didn't have a problem invading Ethiopia, right? They didn't have a problem invading Ethiopia. They didn't have a problem invading Libya in the first place. But he's going to tell Theodore Herzl, you can't do that because you'll be building in somebody's house. But they didn't have a problem invading Ethiopia or Libya, right? Isn't that? These devils are something else, boy, I tell you. Now he has the moral. Now he has a moral compass. Talking about now that wouldn't be right, but he didn't think it wasn't wrong when they invaded Ethiopia unjustly. Something else, boy. So the choice finally fell on Palestine, right? So he says the choice finally fell on Palestine, and Kaiser Wilhelm II was approached. So that's how it wound up becoming Palestine. So yeah, so to answer your question, that is Zionism based on European Jewish supremacy like Nazism, the answer is yes, indeed. Yes, indeed it is. Yes, indeed it is. All right. So yeah, you were saying, who's this? Hikuba? Then that's okay. So when I mentioned that earlier about the King Faisal proposition, which was returned to the 1967 the 50-50 distribution. Okay. When is Jesus coming back, man? Oh, it's well, you know how that goes. Nobody knows about that. How the hell? Oh, I don't know who that is. White nationalists such as David Duke try to use that argument to try to prove that Jews are a genetically distinct group from other whites. Yeah, they try to do that, but like I said, when you look at the real evidence shows that the reality, the white Jews are no different from other white people. The only difference is what? Their religion. That's it. As far as their genetic makeup, there is no different from other white people. It's no different from other white people. All right, let's see. The solution is to join the Mahdi Khalifa. You can have good relations with non-Muslims, but not too much. But wouldn't you agree that the behavior of Palestinians is counterproductive? I mean, protesting and doing all this is not helping anybody. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, that it's not productive in the sense that nothing is going to get accomplished. So I agree with you on that. As I said, I understand the anger and the frustration, but as far as obviously it's not going to accomplish anything. They're just expressing their anger, and it's not going to accomplish anything. But I don't know. Like I said, I gave you what the solution would be. If the other Muslim countries would back them and put pressure and show that they're united with them, they could then perhaps affect true political change, and they wouldn't have to resort to any type of physical confrontation. But because they're left isolated, they really, of course, even in their anger and their physical anger, it's not accomplishing anything either. But more so, like I said, as far as a political solution, a non-violent political solution, they would need the rest of the Muslim nations to show unity with them. But that hasn't been the case in decades. And therefore, nothing is going to get accomplished in that. So let's see. Most of so-called Muslim army receive funding from the USA. So, yeah, you're right. I remember when I was living in Virginia, and I was in Hampton Roads, Virginia, and I used to go to the mosque right over there. And the mosque, the masjid, was right over there by the Langley Air Force Base. And wallahi, this is no lie, I swear by Allah, many times for Juma, we would have soldiers from other countries come make Juma with us, and in their uniform. And I would see these brothers. I've seen like soldiers from Saudi Arabia. I've seen soldiers from Egypt in their uniform, and clearly they were obviously doing some type of training. The brothers would tell us, like, "Yo, what are you doing?" I'm like, "What are you doing here in uniform and everything?" And they were training. They were doing like training exercises with the American troops and stuff like that. So I was like, wow, ain't that something, man? I was like, ain't that something? So that's what I'm saying, brothers. That's why, unfortunately, nothing is going to get accomplished anytime soon. As long as there are people who are taking them as your allies, right? Instead of being independent and sovereign, that's just the reality. Nothing's going to get accomplished. No time soon. Until the Muslims wake up and say, you know what? No, we need independent. We got to be truly independent, and we got to do for self. Nothing's going to get accomplished. As long as you're relying on, and I talk about this too, as long as you're relying on them to sell you weapons, right? The Saudis, a lot of these countries, they buy their weapons from some European powers. They're not self-sufficient. They're not self-sustaining. They're buying their weapons from the French. They're buying their weapons from the British. They buy their weapons from America. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't, what can you do? What can you do? You're not even self-sufficient to make your own, military weapons. So that means you ain't never gonna get nowhere. You ain't never gonna be truly free and independent no time soon. For the who knows, for the next 100 years. You know what I'm saying? That's to me, that's sad, because that's not what the prophet's example was. His example was what? He showed how he rose up from the bottom against a stronger force, and he was independent, right? When he went to Medina and established his community in Medina, right? They were independent, right? They weren't going to the Quraysh to sell them swords, right? And sell them military equipment. No, they had to be independent. They had to get that themselves so they could be truly an independent, sovereign nation, right? So that's the example he showed us. Showed us how to be independent and sovereign. But these nations, all these nations, like they can't, they're not self-producing. You see what I'm saying? They're not self-producing. You're not self-sustainable. So as long as you are, buying your weapons from these other people and they're supplying you're never going to be truly free and independent. You're never going to be truly free and independent. So, I don't know if in our lifetime we may not see it. We may not see it. You know what I'm saying? Unless there's some drastic change, we may not see it, brothers and sisters. I'm sorry. In our lifetime, we may not see ever Palestine free in our lifetime. Maybe 100 years from now, 200 years, 300. I don't know. Allah knows best. But in my lifetime, I don't know. I'm 45 right now. Allah knows how much time I have left. But I don't know if I live to a very old age. I don't know the way things look, the way things are going at the current trend. If I live to 80, 90 years old, I may not ever see an independent Palestine or independent Muslim nations at this current trend. If this current trend you're not going to see it in your lifetime. We're not going to see it in our lifetime. Allahu Alam. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to see it in our lifetime at this current trend. We're not going to see it. We're not going to see it. Allah knows best, but I'm just giving my opinion, of course. But I don't, like I said, at the current trend, where they keep relying on these people to buy weapons from them and produce without producing their own weapons, their own military forces. They're never going to get nowhere. They're never going to get nowhere. They're never going to be independent. Never going to be truly independent. Never going to be truly free. They're never going to be truly sovereign. It's never going to happen. Matter of fact, I seen some stuff that really, to me, is embarrassing for Saudi. You know what I mean? Like, for example, this was before my time. Well, no, was it before? I'm not sure. But I don't know what year it was. Sometime in the 70s, I was reading back that the Kaaba had been taken over. Not by Europe, but it was by some terrorist group. Who old enough to, or who knows about that? Right? What year was that? Like 1975 or something like that? Right? When let me see if I can look that up. Kaaba got taken over. What year was that? 1975. Kaaba gets taken over. Who took over what year was that happened? Oh, it was 1975, right? Was it 1975? They called it the Grand Mosque Seizure. Oh, 1979. The Grand Mosque Seizure occurred during November and December 1979 when extremist insurgents calling for the overthrow of the House of Saud took over Masjid al-Haram. Okay, so it's 1979. Okay, so now, even though it was supposedly other Muslims who did it, what was embarrassing about when I read about this story is that the Saudis themselves couldn't handle that problem. From what I understand, they had to call in the French special forces to do that for them. And I was like, yo, that's sad. You had to call on these devils from Europe to do that for you? You don't even have enough of a force to, I might not even be, I'm thinking now, I might not even be able to make Hajj after this. I might not be able to go make Hajj, brothers and sisters, talk the way I'm talking. I might not be able to make Hajj after this, bros. MashaAllah, what Allah knows my intentions, but I might not be able to make Hajj after this. But to me, I was like, yo, this is sad. That you're that sorry that you can't handle this yourself. You got to call your white daddy from Europe to do this for you. From what I understand, they had to call in some French special forces to remove these people from the Masjid al-Haram. They couldn't do it themselves. I was like, that's embarrassing, yo. That's embarrassing. And see that's what perpetuates the white supremacy. That's what perpetuates it, because you keep turning to these shayateen to handle this stuff for you instead of you doing it yourself. Just like with the refugee thing. And on Pal Talk, some Muslims got mad at me for this because I brought this up. And let me explain my context to you. When I became Muslim, from the stuff that I read about Islam, I was under the impression that we were supposed to be, and that we had a strong brotherhood and sisterhood, right? To understand where I was coming from when I said this, some brothers and sisters on Pal Talk, they got mad at me because I said the truth. and they didn't like the truth that I had to say. But I wasn't trying to insult anybody. I wasn't trying to denigrate. I was actually saying that the Muslims, we supposed to be able to take care of ourselves. That's what I was saying. I wasn't trying to offend nobody. I was actually saying that we are supposed to be in a position where we can take care of our own. The refugees shouldn't have to go to Europe at all, was what I was saying. No Syrian refugees or from anywhere should have to go to Europe for anything. They should have been able to come to all the Muslim nations. All the refugees shouldn't have to go to Europe for anything. They should be able to come to Saudi, to Egypt, to Iran, to Algeria, to Tunisia. They should be able to go to every Muslim nation and seek refuge amongst the Muslim people. But because we are not in a position as a people of the world, they got to go running to white daddy for help and protection. Right? And white daddy doesn't really want to help you. You see? The Americans, they don't want to help you. They don't want you here, as you saw when Trump was running for president, right? That's why they put a ban on some of your countries coming here, because they don't really want you here. But you want to come to your white daddy for help instead of looking to the Muslims for help. But you know what? I can't blame you, because the Muslims ain't in a position to help you, because the Muslims are too busy allying themselves with their former colonialist masters. So they can't help you. So what you supposed to do? So so on that side, what can you do? Where can you turn? You should be able to, if we were doing our Islam properly, right? If we were doing our Islam properly, the refugees should be able to seek refuge amongst every single Muslim nation. But they can't. Why? Because the Muslim nations are messed up. Because of whether it's Arab nationalism, or whether it's because of some family wants to rule and hold on power and greed for themselves, right? Or because you're a puppet, because your country is run by a puppet leader. We can't practice and do our Islam like we're supposed to, which would mean we're supposed to be a brotherhood, a sisterhood, where we handle and take care of our own. But we're not in that position, right? We're not in that position. So the refugees got to run to European countries for refuge and help and seeking a better life. That's a shame. That's a shame, because the Muslim nations are supposed to be where the better life is at, right? The Muslim nations is supposed to be where the better life is at. You shouldn't have to be running to the European nations to seek a better living, to make a better living for yourself, right? You shouldn't have to do that. I should be able to go to a Muslim nation and live comfortably, right? I should be able to go there and live comfortably and make a living, be able to provide for my family, get a good job or create a business, make money and provide for my family comfortably. But the Muslim nations don't offer that. So you come to Europe, you come to America, and you get a good paying job. That's a shame. That's a shame. I'm sorry, brothers and sisters. I'm not putting down your country, wherever country you're from, but you can't deny that I'm telling the truth. Or perhaps maybe I was naive, or perhaps I'm naive. Perhaps when I became Muslim, I was a young, naive, excited person that I was coming into this religion that preached and taught brotherhood and sisterhood, and that we're supposed to do for self, and we're supposed to rely on Allah only, or rely on each other, and we rely on Allah and we seek refuge and help with one another. Maybe I was naive, because that's what I believe. When I read these things, I said, oh, okay, yeah, we're supposed to look out for each other, right? The Muslims shouldn't have a war. We should be able to look out for each other. But then the reality, as I began to see, the reality hit me, and I'm like, hey, it doesn't appear to be that's the way it really is. So understand that I'm not trying to insult you or your country. If you are a refugee, I'm not trying to insult you or offend you, nor am I trying to talk bad about your country. But you got to agree that that's what Islam teaches, right? You got to agree that that's what Islam teaches. So as a new Muslim, I believed it with all my heart. When I read these things, that's what I was looking for. I'm looking for what I'm reading, that we're supposed to be a brotherhood. We're supposed to be a one ummah. We're supposed to be united, right? We're supposed to take care of each other. We're supposed to be able to seek each other as our awliya, not the other. That's what Allah said. Allah says, take each other as the awliya. Right? As your guardian. Take each other as your guardian and protectors, not these others. So when the American people get mad about the refugees, on the one hand, yeah, it's racism, I understand. But on the other hand, they shouldn't have to be taking care of the refugees anyway, because we're supposed to be taking care of ourselves. I mean, when I say, I mean the Muslim nations. Okay? I mean the Muslim nations. So when they get mad at you in the Netherlands, when the EDL is mad at you and BNP is mad at you, yeah, it's racism. But on the other coin, on the other side of the coin, they shouldn't have to be upset about refugees coming to their country anyway, because we should have been, we as Muslim nations should be able to provide for our own people. If it's, again, I repeat, if our Islam was being done right globally, I mean, not as individuals, but as a nation of the world, no refugee would have to set a foot in any European country for anything, for a better way of living, a better job, safety. They should have been able to seek that amongst the Muslim people. And like I said, when I said this in a particular room on Pal Talk, people got mad at me. People got mad at me. You know why they got mad though? What I believe, because I was telling them the truth. You know how they say the truth hurts? They got mad because they knew I was right. Some of them, they got upset because they knew that I was right. Right? They knew that I was telling the truth, and they know, what can you say but get mad because you know that you shouldn't be seeking these help from these people. So they got upset with me. Right? They got upset. They got mad. But the truth hurts. The truth hurts. You gotta deal with that. The truth hurts. You know what I mean? So yeah, like I said, it was 1979 when the mosque, the Masjid al-Haram got taken over, and the Saudis had to call in some French, I believe it was French special forces, to take care of that because they couldn't handle it themselves. And that to me was sad. That to me was sad that they couldn't deal with that themselves. You know what I'm saying? So let's see, what else do we have here? What else before we, because it's about an hour. We're over an hour. So let's see, let's continue on a little bit more, then we'll get ready to close it out. All right, so let's see here. Palestine need to look at Rasul as an example. Only prophet knew the Kaaba was. Yeah, he dealt with the issue practically, not emotionally. Okay, yeah, okay. What is the tie? Is that tie? The U.S. at the moment. I don't know. I don't know the exact number. Wait, do you mean Indians, like immigrant Indians from India, or like Native American population? I don't. If you mean the Native American population, I don't know. I don't know what their numbers are. You know, I don't know what their numbers are anymore. But what was the thing here that was being said? Oh yeah, about the example of the prophet, right? So, but I mean, okay, but the example of the prophet was what? He went to Medina. So I don't know. Are you saying that that's what the Palestinians should? Although you know what, some scholars have said that. Some scholars have said that the Palestinians should. But some people got mad about that too, upset about it. But some people are like, the Palestinians should do like the Prophet did with the Medina example. Leave, go to Medina, get yourselves together, get yourselves right, and then you come back in a few years or several years and you take back your land. So some people said they should do that. Some people got mad when that was said. So you know what I'm saying? Ultimately, of course, it's something that, they would have to figure out there. What else do we have here? Let's see. Where was that? What I missed? Don't know why someone made an issue of the Palestinians protesting. Do they just want them to take more and more crap? People just want them to sit in a corner and get more trampled by the Zionists. Regretfully, now they use Jordan Sudanese forces in Yemen. They can't even fight their own battles. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's sad, man. That's sad, yo. Like, who's in the Saudi army, man? Like, where's the men at, man? Stand up, man. Stand up, brothers, sisters. Stand up, yo. Stand up for your country. Stand up. How you relying on these Americans for and all these other people for to, Sometimes I feel the need to hold my tongue just to go to Hajj. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, you know what? After this, I might not be able to make Hajj now. So Allah, you know my intentions, but I might not be able to make Hajj talking like, if this video gets around, then I might be like, you know what, I can't make Hajj now because scholars of the Sultan said that protesting is haram to suit the leaders they work for. Yeah, I've heard that too, that some scholars say that protesting is haram. Allah knows better, I don't know. So they should just sit in the corner and take arguments. Okay, if the Jews say they were the first ones there, so they have right to the land, that means they should be also, that America should be given back. Well, yeah, I've used that same argument, brother Shazad. I've used that same argument as well. When people try to make that argument, I say, so that means that you wouldn't get mad then if the Native Americans said, hey, we were here first, so give us back our land, and they decided to take part of America back and occupy places. You wouldn't get mad then, right? But of course we know they wouldn't accept that. We know they wouldn't accept that. You see, they wouldn't go for that. But although the Native Americans would have the right to do that, right? But they wouldn't accept that. They wouldn't say, oh yeah, you know what, you're right, you were here first, and this is your ancestral land, and the Great Spirit, the great Indian God or Native American God Spirit said that that's your land and you deserve it. Here you go. They wouldn't do that because they didn't respect it back then. So why would they respect it now? That's a good question. Why do Muslim refugees want to come to the Western nations rather than... Yeah, exactly. So that's what I always wondered too, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know. I wish I could speak to them and say why do you want to go to Europe? Why do you want to go to Italy? Why do you want to go to Germany or Berlin or London or why do you want to go there? Is it because maybe it's because that? Maybe it's because they see that either the Muslim nations can't help them, won't help them, is messed up, or they need money, they need a better way of living. I don't know. I would like to ask them, like, tell me why. Why did you want to come to America or come to a Western nation? Why didn't you want to go to one of the Muslim nations? What made you want to come to these places? That's something that I would be very interested to know. You know what I mean? No need to apologize. You're right. They got mad because they are. Yeah, exactly. I suppose in the West, everybody gets a chance no matter who you are. Brother, there isn't any proper Muslim nation that's left that I can think of, which is proper. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And how you say, I, Mickey? Yeah, you're right. You're right. And that's right. That's part of the problem. What do you think about Shia? If the Shia insult the companions, then they are not Muslim. I mean, man, as far as the Shia thing, look, this is my main thing is this, that as far as like when I first became Muslim, the only thing that I had learned about Shia was that the really major difference was that they felt that Ali should have been the successor after the Prophet. From what I understood, that was the major issue between the Shia and Sunni, was that the Shia Muslims felt that Ali should have been the successor leader after the Prophet. And that's really what the majority, thing is. Now I've heard about that there's 12ers, some group called the 12ers, but I understand that most Shia don't believe in that. I've heard stuff about them insulting companions. But again, I'm going to admit, this is stuff that I've heard. Okay, this is stuff that I've heard. Have I witnessed this myself? No, maybe because I really don't research that area, because I'm always researching, and studying about debating and arguments against the Christians and stuff like that. So, but again, I can say this is stuff that I've heard. Have I actually seen Shia do that? No, I have not. I have not seen Shia actually insult any of the companions. And I'm not saying that they don't. I'm not saying that they don't. If you have evidence, I'm not saying that they don't. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. This is stuff that I just heard in the circles that I've been around where people have said this. But have I seen that? No. I mean, I've been to places where Shia Muslims are, and they treated me like a brother. Right? They treated me like a brother. Matter of fact, a couple of times when I was in New York, when I used to live in New York, there's a section in Brooklyn where on two sides of the street, it's interesting. On one side of the street in Brooklyn on Atlantic Avenue, across the street, there's a Sunni masjid. And then on the other side of the street, there's like a Shia community. So I would go, I'm looking for Islamic books. So I didn't know the difference. I'd go to any bookstore, any place, where the Muslims, where I saw the Muslims. So I went to the Shia Muslim bookstore, and they didn't treat me differently. They treated me like I was a Muslim. They said Assalamu alaikum, treated me like a brother. They had books that I could relate to that were from Sunni scholars, Shia scholars, So you know what I mean. So I didn't really see much of a difference there. They didn't act different to me. And then there was a time where I did a debate in Detroit. I did a debate in Detroit, and it was the time. Yeah, it was the time when I debated with the Muslim Student Association and the Christian Student. So when I debated that guy, Pastor, what was his name? Donald, I forgot his name, Donald Wolin or something like that. When I debated that pastor, after that debate, a Shia brother came up to me and he was like, "Brother, you know, I like the way you spoke. Would you come to our masjid?" He wanted to invite me to come and speak at their masjid. Now I didn't get a chance to do it because the time frame, you know, the schedule I had, I wouldn't allow for it. But he invited me. He said, "Would you come?" And I would have went too. I would have went. So, you know, my experience is that I never seen, I hadn't experienced any difference. I've never seen or heard any Shia myself insult the companions or anything like again, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm just saying that I haven't seen it myself. And the reason why I say that is because if you know me, you know that that's my thing. I'm into the, you know, obviously the debates and stuff like that. And so I like to study and I like to have the evidence myself. I don't like to go by hearsay. I like to see the evidence for myself so that way when I speak about it, I can say, hey, I've seen that myself. I have evidence, I've seen it, and yes, I witnessed it myself. So that's what I'm saying. Again, I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying for myself that I have not seen that personally. I've always heard people say this. I've always heard my Sunni brothers say, yeah, the Shia, they insult the companions, they insult Aisha, they insult this, but I have not seen that myself. Okay. So, and like, again, because of the way I am with my debates, I always like to have the evidence to back it up. And like I said, perhaps I need to research it, but I haven't done it because it's not really something that I focus on a lot. You know what I mean? I really don't focus on that too much. Okay. But so that's my thought about it. My thought about the Shias is that as long as they believe in Allah and His Messenger, you know what I'm saying, and they're not, you know, and they accept what we accept, then, you know, that's how I see it. You know what I'm saying? That's how I see it. You know, now again, like I said, from what I heard about the 12ers, that seems like that's obviously not part of the true deen of Islam. And if they are insulting companions or whatever the case, then obviously that kind of stuff is not right. And of course, I heard there's some group too that believes, I don't again, I haven't seen the evidence, but I heard that there's a group of Shia that also believe that Ali was supposed to be the true messenger of Allah and not the prophet. Or I heard that some say that there's Ali is supposed to be God or Ali, you know, Allah in person. Again, hearsay. This is all hearsay stuff. Okay, I have not seen. I have never spoken to a Shia who told me that yeah, they believe that Ali is supposed to be the prophet, or that Ali is supposed to be Allah in person or anything like that. I have not heard this in person. I've heard people say this. You know, other Sunnis, Muslims say that that's about Shia, but I have not witnessed any Shia themselves profess such beliefs. So that's my thought. So that's my answer to your question about what do I think about Shia. Okay. What's the next thing? Germans killed 6 million Jews and Palestinians were forced to give up their land to European Jews. You know, that's a good point too, Mohammed Zakaria, that I used to bring that up a lot too, is that why is it that Germany didn't give the Jews some land since they're the ones who violated them, right? Since they're the ones who violated the European Jews, why weren't they punished by giving some of Germany to the people that they did wrong? Why did the Palestinians have to suffer? Right? Why did the Palestinians have to give up land? Germany should have been the one to compensate them for the wrongdoing that they did to them, not the Palestinians. So I agree with that, Mohammed Zakaria. What else did you say here? The last thing Muslims need is allowing such individuals to keep them. Exactly, dude. That's true. I agree with that. We definitely don't need disunity. They insult Abu Bakr. Yeah, again, yeah, you know, they may be true. Again, I'm not denying it. I have to look. But like I said, I don't really focus on that too much because I'm too busy dealing with the Christians and the haters and the other racists that are trying to attack Islam and make arguments against us. So, you know what I'm saying? What else? What else do we have here? Yes, they do. Watch the anti channel in YouTube, which shows their taqiyya, what they... All right, I'll check it out. I'll check it out. Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that. I'm gonna see this weekend if I can make some time to watch that debate between James White. What was the topic? What was the topic of the debate? Robert Spencer and James White. What was the topic of that debate? You know what the topic was? What was the topic? But yeah, I'm gonna definitely look it up and check it out. I'm sure that was a good debate. Do you know what the topic was? What were they debating? I'll look it up though. I'll look it up. Have you watched Empire Files by Abby Martin on Palestine? No, I haven't seen that. I have to check that out. Have you seen Brothers of Brother? Again, yeah, I have seen Brother. You know, I still didn't get in contact with the brother either. But yeah, like I said last week or the week before that, I did have a chance to check out some of his videos, and yeah, like I said, I like the brother's style. He did very good in answering and refuting David Wood, and like I said, I keep saying it, but I'm gonna do it. I want to get up with the brother and see if we can collaborate on some projects or share some notes with each other, or put something together. But yeah, I definitely like the brother's work, and I would definitely like to work with him in dealing with David Wood and whoever else we could work, we can do some work against. It was regarding Islam and violence. Okay, it was about Islam. Okay, all right, cool. So James White was arguing what the Islamic position. What do you think about the recent MDY debate, Sadat Anwar versus? I didn't get a chance to see that one either. I have to look that one up as well. Regarding Takia, I saw the promotion for it, but I just didn't get a chance to see it yet. So yeah, I'm gonna check that out too. So inshallah, I'll see if I can get all that done by next week, and I'll be able to express my thoughts about that next week, inshallah. All right, brothers and sisters. So we had again another good show. We're about to sign off. Appreciate you all checking in and checking out the show. So I'm about to sign off. All right. But again, appreciate you signing and check out some videos from Hyde Park, YouTube between. Yeah, I've seen those. I see a lot of those on Facebook, the Hyde Park videos. So those are good also. All right. But yeah, brothers and sisters, the Christian guy was very aggressive in that debate. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, remember what I told you. Well, I'm gonna see how the Muslim brother handled it. Did he kind of like meet that aggression properly, or was he like being humble and meek and what I mean? Like how did he handle it? Did he like kind of take it back to him, or did he because that's what I told you. Remember I told you that I think on the first show we did, or the second show, where I was like, that's part of your debate, right? That's part of your debate style. Where you can't let them walk over you. You know what I'm saying? You can't let them bully you and be aggressive like that. If they get like that, you give it right back to them. You know what I mean? You give it right back to them, and you stand your ground and you stand firm, and you don't let them get away with that bully stuff. Because like I said, you got to remember, it's not only about the information, but it's also your delivery and the perception of the people watching and listening to the debate. So if you come off weak, the Muslims may see that too. The Muslims may feel, dissatisfied because it's like the brother, they're like, oh man, the brother's getting walked over. And, even though the information may be good, but because the perception is that you're getting walked over and you're allowing yourself to get bullied, that it looks like you're not doing good in the debate, So your delivery is part of in addition to the information being right and good, is part of your debate skill, that you have to show that you can stand your ground. Don't let them bully you. Don't let them push you over. Don't let them get rude with you and you accept them doing that kind of stuff to you. Stand your ground. Be a man or a woman about it, and let them know, hey, I'm not going to take that, and you return that. I'm not saying that you get like nasty and rude, but you return that firm attitude. You stand up to them and you return that aggressiveness, but in a more focused and direct manner in your delivery and your argumentation. But so yeah, all right. But I'm gonna definitely check that out, the debate between Robert Spencer and James White. And you're right, yeah, James White is taking a very interesting development. You know what I mean? You're right. The way he's going it is kind of interesting, the way he's the way I see him going about things. You know what I'm saying? Very good. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, Mickey. I appreciate that. Alhamdulillah. Thank you for watching. And again, check us out every week, inshallah. We try to do our main show every Friday. This week I didn't do a show during the week, but the show that we really regularly schedule will be every Friday, inshallah, at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Sometimes we may do a show during the week. Okay. All right. So yes, thank you. And again, I know I say it every week. But I gotta do it. Any donations, brothers and sisters, would greatly help a brother out. Okay, any donations would help us to continue to be able to have the time and the means to do more videos and do more work and do more projects. So again, I say it all the time, you know, on the screen you can do the super chat, which allows you to make a donation, or on my channel in the right hand corner you can click there. It takes you to my website. Go to the tab that says more, a drop down menu. You'll see donations. You can make a donation through PayPal there. But anything helps, whether you give something or not, it doesn't matter. We still do our best to continue to show from there on. But I appreciate you, brothers and sisters, tuning in. Thank you, Mickey, for saying that you like, you know, some of the things that I talked about. Appreciate that. And again, let's keep this going. All right. What do you think about the haters turning on each other? You know, that's a great thing. You know, and you know, before I leave, let me say something about that. That's interesting too. That eventually the haters, they hate turns to themselves, right? The hate turns, they wind up turning on themselves. But you know what's interesting though? I found that happens. That seems to happen a lot, not even with other people who are like that, even with Muslims. Even with Muslims, I've seen, like, for example, let me give you an example of what I mean. Here in the United States, in the early 90s, right? In the early 90s here in the United States, there was this big Salafi movement, right? A big Salafi movement was taking place here in America amongst Muslims in the early 90s. Right, big Salafi thing. And a lot of the promoters, a lot of the imams or students of knowledge or whatever of the Salafi movement here in America were first they started off attacking other Muslims, right? First they were making tapes. Back then we had tapes, right? We didn't have CDs was still kind of new, so they used to be tapes, like cassette tapes, where they would make tapes about their lectures or their khutbahs, and they were attacking other Muslims in America as whatever, not being upon the Sunnah, or because they weren't Salafi, or whatever, right? So they were doing that. And then all of a sudden, towards the late 90s, early 2000s, all of a sudden these dudes started attacking each other. All of a sudden, all these different all these well-known Salafi speakers, then they started making tapes about each other. All of a sudden, this brother he's a Salafi, he's attacking this other brother who's a Salafi, and that one's attacking him. So they started, eventually, they fell on each other, and they started attacking each other. So when you bring that up, it's interesting that seems to happen with a lot of people, I guess, who seem to go out and start attacking other people, that eventually they wind up falling in on each other. You know, I don't know. It seems like they eventually start falling in upon each other. You know, so it's just very interesting. It's very interesting. What was that last thing? He said Wali Shubat is losing popularity. Man, I thought, you know, I haven't heard anything from Wali Shubat in years. You know what I'm saying? Ever since I made my videos exposing him, after that, I really didn't hear too much from him. You know, a couple of times his son Theodore was trying to come on the scene, but over the years, I haven't heard too much from Wali Shubat, much at all, or his son. You know what I mean? But yeah, he should lose credibility, because if you go back to my channel and you see the videos I did where I exposed him, he's exposed, man. He's a fraud. He's not no former terrorist. He wasn't in the PLO and all this BS that he was talking. The dude is a fraud. Go to my channel, go to my YouTube channel, and look. You got to look back. It's several years old. It's probably 8-9 years old now. But go back on my YouTube channel and look at my videos where I have exposing Wali Shubat. I did one earlier one, then I did an update one where I get more, because I found more information to expose him. He's exposed, man. He's a fraud. All that stuff he claimed that he did, that he was a terrorist, that he blew up this bank and all that. That stuff is a bunch of, he didn't do nothing. He's a damn liar. He's a damn liar, and he did that to try to get credit with these white racists here in America, and they fell for it, right? They fell for it. They believed his story because he said he was a terrorist and he did some bombing. He didn't do a damn thing. He's a fraud, faking fraud, trying to get credit from these white racist bigots here in America by claiming that he was a terrorist. He didn't do a damn thing. He's a fraud faker. He wasn't in no PLO. He wasn't in no Hezbollah. He didn't do any of that. He's a fraud. He's a faker. It just made his story sound good. So these gullible white racist bigots would believe in him and say, oh, see, he used to be a terrorist. He used to be a terrorist. So he must know what he's talking about when he talks about Islam. No, he don't know what he's talking about because he's a damn liar. Okay, so go to my videos and I exposed him. I exposed him years ago. So he should lose credibility. All of these guys should. They're all, a lot of them are frauds. That's why that other, what was that other Cannon? I forgot that guy's name. Something Cannon. Remember that guy, Cannon, whatever the hell? He got exposed as a fraud. That other guy's a fraud too. What's his name? Kamal Salim, the one who I had to run in with on that ABN show. He's a fraud too. Yeah, he's a fraud too. Kamal Salim. That guy, I wanted to debate him so bad. After I did that show with him that day, I wanted to debate him so bad because I wanted to get him on a one-on-one. Because I know if I could get him on a one-on-one, his career's over. His career is over. So if I ever get the, matter of fact, if I still get the chance to, if he's still running his mouth on that garbage, if I ever get to Allah, if I ever get the chance to debate him, his career is over. See, and you know what? Before I end the show, that's why some of these guys don't want to have debates. That's why a lot of them don't do debates, because they know if you can get them one-on-one, it's over. Their career is over. So a lot of them will stay away from debates where they can be challenged because they know they cannot hold that stuff that they talk can't hold up to the truth. So they'd rather just do a one-person lecture and tell the audience whatever they want to say, being unchallenged. Whereas if they do a debate one-on-one, careers are over. I'm trying to end careers, right? I'm trying to end careers. You know, like with Robert Spencer, he's debating James White. Debate a Muslim. Debate me, Robert Spencer. Why debate me again? I'll debate you on that topic about violence in Islam. I'll debate you on that topic. But you got to debate another Christian. Just like when he did that debate with David, I'm like, why are they debating each other? Remember when he debated David Wood? I'm like, why are y'all debating each other? Right? Why are y'all debating each other? Debate a Muslim. Debate a Muslim who can handle himself. Right? Debate a Muslim who can handle himself. But they don't want to do that because that'll end their career. That's why it looks like when I did, after that time I debated Robert Spencer, after that he was quiet. I didn't see him debate nobody else, no other Muslims after that. Everything after that he would do lectures. He would do a one-person lecture, right? After his debate with me, all he would do after that was one-person lectures. He didn't debate nobody else because he couldn't stay up to the evidence, right? You watch that debate, it was over. It was finished. I exposed him clearly in that debate, right? So after that, he starts debating. He starts doing lectures, one-person lectures, where nobody's challenging what he has to say, because they know that if they do that, it's going to end their career. See, they debate somebody who knows how to debate and who knows what they're talking about. They will be exposed. They will be embarrassed in front of their people, right? Because the people who, right, they'll be embarrassed in front of their gullible fans, right? Because these people look up to them. But if they see that they get in a debate with a person like myself who knows how to handle himself and who has a firm presentation, they'll get embarrassed in front of their gullible audience and they'll lose their credibility. So they're like, you know what? Let me stay away from that. I'm not debating no Muslim who knows what he knows how to talk about. I'm gonna debate another Christian. I'm gonna debate another person, or I'm gonna do a lecture, one person lecture where I don't got to worry about being embarrassed. That's what they'll do. You see? So yeah, Robert Spencer. Yeah, I haven't heard from you in years, man. I would love to debate you again. I would love to debate you again on that topic that you're debating James White on. You know what I'm saying? So, But all right, brothers and sisters, let me get ready to go. Again, good show. Talk to you guys later. Remember those books again. Get these books if you can. Zionism, The Myth and Reality by Ismail Zayyad. Right? Shows you how Zionism its racist origins. It quotes the leaders of the Zionist movement. Theodor Herzl. I forgot the other guy's name. I don't know if it was Weissman. I forgot his first name. Weissman. It has the actual quotes in the book with the footnotes and everything. Okay. The other book that I presented tonight, Israel and South Africa, legal systems of settler dominance, which exposes the relationship between apartheid, South Africa, and Israel, how they both have racist policies and laws. Okay, check it out. That's by Donald Will and Sheila Ryan. Okay. All right, so again, I appreciate you checking in with us on the show, and inshallah, we'll see you all next week. And if again, don't forget, all right, don't forget those, don't forget to tune in, and don't forget, like I said, if you can make a donation, we greatly appreciate that. All right, take care. Assalamu alaikum.